Okay, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this meeting of Council. The meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting may be captured as part of this recording. We acknowledge the original custodians of the lands that we're meeting from tonight, pay respects to elders past and present, and welcome any descendants who may be watching the meeting this evening. As councillors, we've all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We are all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. Do I have any apologies and leave of absence? Any declarations of conflict of interest? Councillor Shepherd.
Yes, I have a general conflict of interest in item 10.5 because the applicant is a close family member.
Thanks, councillor. Okay, so when we get to 10.5, you will leave the room.
Yes, I will vacate.
Thank you very much. So item 5 is council, community and council achievements. We've actually got quite a list this week of some great news and some really great achievements on our community. So I'm going to ask, first of all, Councillor Horn to talk about some of the things that we've seen happen in Rutherglen.
Lovely, yes, the sun's shining in Rutherglen at the moment, that's sure. We had some very exciting news that Morris Wines from Rutherglen were recognised in the top 10 of the Big Seven travel list. It's an international wine award, so that was pretty good. And then Gourmet Traveller Wine Magazine acknowledged Campbell's as Star Cellar Door. All Saints Winery got the award for the best large cellar door. Warrabilla, the small cellar door. Jones Winery was recognised as having the best cellar door of food at the cellar door. And Fifers, they were recognised for having the best additional experience at their cellar door. So it was
Great.
Exciting. Yeah.
Congratulations to all of those wineries.
Well done.
Great news. And Councillor Price, you were going to just speak about the great news that the Red Cross volunteers from Chiltern were awarded.
Yeah, so the entire Red Cross Emergency Service North East Division recently received a Meritorious Service Award for their work during the 2019-20 bushfires. Members of the Indigo Emergency Service team, Susan Shelley, Heather Stevens, Diane Schulz and Lindley Sewell travelled to Government House where they were presented with their awards, with Julia Smith to be presented with the same medal over the coming weeks. During the fire emergency, the team was first called to Ballacoota, but when it was cut off, they were sent to Omeo. As soon as they returned, they volunteered at relief centres in Wodonga, Tallangatta, Latchford Barracks and Myrtleford, with their final shift being completed almost 3 weeks after the beginning of the disaster. Congratulations to all for this well-deserved recognition.
Absolutely. It actually is a great segue into the fact that this is National Volunteer Week from the 17th to the 23rd of May. So in addition to those wonderful women who received those awards, we do want to celebrate and thank the amazing contribution that our volunteers in Indigo Shire make in just so many ways, and absolutely make a contribution around all aspects of livability in this shire. So thank you very much. And I've got Councillor Shepherd telling me something.
Beechwood Secondary College you were going to raise.
Oh, absolutely. Councillor Goldsworth, I'm going to hand that one over to you.
In relation to the opening of the beach,
Fantastic opening of
yes,
this.
it was terrific. We had the member for Northern Victoria and Attorney General Jacqueline Symes there opening up. She's done some terrific work on behalf of the school to get funding for that. It's a $9 million facility, and it's certainly a great place for the students of staying home to learn. It's being equated to more like a university campus or a TAFE. The facilities there really look good, and the kids are very excited to be there. And of course, the mayor was there for the opening as well. And I think in no small part, there's good advocacy on behalf of the council to the state government. I think that contributed as well for the successful outcomes. So congratulations to the secondary college for the new facility.
Absolutely. And Councillor Gaffney.
I'd just like to congratulate the board and CEO from Indigo North Health, who obtained through hard work and advocacy $57 million, the biggest grant ever received by Indigo Shire, to build a new aged care facility in Rutherglen. They've done a great job, and it's a massive amount of money.
Yes, congratulations to them. And we really only learned of this news yesterday or the day before, but it's so exciting. And as Councillor Gaffney said, it's the biggest investment, certainly that I've been aware of in Indigo Shire ever. So a huge congratulations to Rutherglen community and Indigo North Health for their work on that. And it's great to see so many good news stories about Rutherglen tonight. It's really wonderful. So, okay, so we'll move on to item 7, which is, there are no condolence motions this evening. So item 7 is the confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. So the recommendation is that Council confirm the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 27th of April 2021 and as published on the website. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Shepherd, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Croucher. Does anyone wish to speak to that item? All right, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. 7.1 is suspension of standing orders regarding the open forum. The standing orders are to be suspended to allow open forum to be brought forward to this agenda item rather than to wait to the end of the meeting, and that the Mayor will read the questions on behalf of the questioner without the requirement that they be present or their representative at the meeting. So we have questions tonight from one questioner, Jonathan Riley. Oh, sorry, yes.
Sorry, Madam, before we put that resolution to change.
Oh, sorry. Do I have someone to allow?
Before we do that, could also at the same time, just wondering if we could also, while we do this one, also bring forward agenda item 13.1, which is the Community Vision Council Plan, to be heard at the same time, just before the budget at 10.1. So if we're changing standing orders to change the open forum question, we'd also ask that 13.1 be brought forward to be heard before
the draft budget. Right. Do I have someone to move the recommendation of moving those two items? Thank you, Councillor Price. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Horn, agreement? Carried? Great, thank you. So going back to open forum, we've had questions tonight from one resident, Jonathan Riley from Barnawatha, and there are 3 questions from Jonathan. So I think Director Greg Pinkerton, I'm going to refer these to you. Oh, sorry, to Ian Ellett. No? Is it Director Ellett that should have these? I think. Yeah. Sorry, I just want to check. Director Pinkerton, did you say you'd respond to these or did I get that wrong?
Yes, I'll take question number 1 and I think then we'll take 2 and 3.
Okay. All right, so question, I'm just not going to listen to the CEO anymore. Question 1, why are transport depots allowed to operate from residential areas on non-approved BW routes? This is against strategic planning of council and impacts on Barnawatha's future planning. Director Pinkerton.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the question. This presumably relates to the property on the Chiltern Barney Road, and in 2016, council refused a planning permit for that use of that site. That was later challenged by the applicant in VCAT, and VCAT determined that the use was permissible with a permit and directed council to issue a permit. It was a VCAT decision.
A VCAT decision. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Pinkerton. Second question, why are the bollards now not at the corner of the Barnawatha store? This now has pedestrians in danger of trailers impacting them on the footpath. This being displayed at an intersection in Melbourne recently. I will hand that one to Director Ian Ellett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and hello, Jonathan, if you're watching. Look, the answer to that one, I can only assume they've been damaged by trucks, and I assume the questioner probably knows that and is pointing it out. I haven't been aware until receiving these questions tonight that that's the case. I will certainly follow up, and if there's safety issues as a result of bollards not being in place and pedestrians being exposed to dangers of trucks, then we need to get that sorted. So we'll take an action to follow that up.
Okay, thank you. And the third question, again, I think this goes to you, Ian Ellett. I'm not quite sure whether I'm getting this the right way, but it says, why does Barnawatha not have a roundabout like we had, as illustrated above? Where is the community consultation as is required from the council's mission statement? So has the roundabout been changed significantly since then? Okay. So obviously there's been some changes to the roundabout that Jonathan's concerned about. Was there community consultation in relation to that?
Look, thank you again for the question. The changes certainly haven't been recent. I think council did spend some money on it, I would guess 4 to 5 years ago. And look, I don't think it's appropriate now. I can't recall the detail of what consultative process was gone through at the time. But yeah, the photo that was provided with the questions is an old photo of the way the roundabout looked previously, but hasn't looked like that for, I'd guess 4 or 5 years. So,
okay.
Yep.
It's changed. Right. All right. So thank you, Jonathan. I hope those answers help to clarify some of your questions there. And they're the only questions we have for this evening for public forum. So the recommendation that I'll put now is that standing orders be resumed. Do I have someone to move that? Thank you, Councillor Price. Second to Councillor Croucher. All those in favour? Carried. Thanks, Councillor. So item 8 is business arising from the previous minutes. There were questions on notice and I'm not reading them out. They're available in the minutes on the website if anyone wants to follow up on those. Item 9 is petitions, and there are no petitions this evening. So we're going to now go to item 13.1, which we agreed to move forward. And the recommendation is that council endorse the draft 10-year community vision for public exhibition for a period of 24 days from 19th of May to 11th of June 2021, that we endorse the draft council plan for public exhibition for a period of 24 days from 19th May to 11th of June, that we invite any person wishing to make a submission on either the draft community vision or the draft council plan 2021-2025 to do so prior to 5 p.m. on the 11th of June, that we schedule an additional meeting of council on the 15th of June to hear from any person wishing to be heard in support of their submission, and that we consider a recommendation to adopt the 10-year community vision and the council plan at the council meeting on the 29th of June 2021. So do I have someone to move that recommendation? Councillor Goldsworthy. Do I have a second to Councillor Croucher? Councillor Goldsworthy, do you wish to speak to this?
Sure. There's been a significant amount of work done by the staff, council, the community. The number of submissions has been impressive, and we have a document that I feel is representative of what the community is looking for over the next 4 years. It does need to go out for further consultation. Keen for it to go to some of our advisory groups as well, just to hear what they've got to say about it. Not every submission will have made it into the draft copies, but certainly the things which were brought out by that consultation process, I think are indicative of what the community expect. I've spoken to community or the council planning previously, and what I'd like to reiterate is that if it's not in the council plan, generally it doesn't make it into the budget, and if it's not in the budget, quite often it doesn't get done because there's no money for it. So this is the document that council has. It's the guiding light for the staff, the CEO, and council, and it's, I can't reiterate its important stuff. So for that reason, I commend it to the council and the community, and hopefully we come back in a month's time and have a fully fledged document.
Thank you.
Well, I'd certainly like to endorse Councillor Goldsworthy's words. We've been through the process, we've been through the consultation period as well, and we've had community input, council input, and staff input, which is really terrific. The only thing I'd like to implore that when this does go out to the community people, would you please have a good look at it, and if you've got anything you'd like to add to it, please do so, because it is a very, very important document.
All right, thanks, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Shepherd.
Just to say that it looks a bit different this time, this 4 years, as from last time, because with the new Local Government Act, we have to develop a long-term community vision. And I think Mel in particular has worked very hard and the community have, since January, she's been gathering from surveys and from hard copies, what people's vision, what they see in the next 10 years for the council. And of course, with all those visionary statements, and it's in here, from that has the words, I suppose, and the goals of the council plan. So it really has come from the vision a lot more this time. And I think it's an interesting and probably very useful addition to the council plan to add the community vision. So, appreciate the work that Mel's done on this, but also very much the community. And when you read it, it's very aspirational. The community really does see this place as an amazing place to live and to work. So it's a great addition.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn.
Again, I have a slightly different take on this, in that it is a very, very important document. And with this new governance, there's the requirement for us to engage in deliberative engagement. And I think it's quite disappointing that of the nearly 14,000 people that we have as registered voters, that we had 208 submissions. So, I just think that we could perhaps encourage people to be more involved in it. I don't think lots of people are aware of the power of this and the value of it. And yes, I would just like to see more input from our community members.
So in line with what Councillor Croucher said, really encourage people to use this opportunity to
Absolutely. And it's beautifully words. There's some very lovely, as Councillor Shepherd said, lots of aspirational things that I don't know that a lot of people think about the practicalities as well. So yeah, I would encourage people to have a much deeper think about what they want our future to be.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. And just a reminder, we are talking about two documents here. One's the vision and one's the council plan. So both are going out, just so people who are listening understand that. I think Councillor Price was first and then Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Gaffney, you've got your hand up.
Councillor Price had her hand up first.
Councillor Price.
It's interesting position to be in on this council because we've all done a council plan before. And so I think it would be worthwhile for the community to know just how much we agonised over exactly what the consultation should look like. And we certainly all had different views, but the same goal, which was to reach as many people as possible. And for a myriad of different reasons, lots of people still don't engage with the plan. And that's why it's important for us to put it out in a draft form now. But regardless of that, I'm really pleased with the way that I've been able to see pieces of feedback that have been given through the drop-in sessions. I can clearly see where they've landed in the plan. And that gives me great confidence in the process and the people that have been in charge of it. And I think they've done a fantastic job. Now, when we hand this back over to the community, we say that it's not quite right because we would like some more feedback from them. We need more input to really make sure that we've got it exactly right. And so if you've had some input till now, you can have further input, or if you've had no input till now, I think it's really important that you engage with it so that you can own this plan as much as we do.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gaffney, you wanted to...
Just a couple of questions, Madam Mayor. At Action Plan 4.2, it says the council will have zero net greenhouse gas emissions by 2025, compared to the Victorian state government who intend to cut those emissions by half by 2030. I was just wondering, has this been costed and how much will it cost the ratepayers of Indigo Shire?
So are you asking me?
CEO.
CEO.
So the goal is aspirational. It hasn't been costed in detail, but we're talking about not the whole Indigo, we're talking about Indigo Council. council itself, being neutral. We've still got to do the work to figure out our own current baseline emissions, and then from that develop a plan to how we go about getting that down to zero. So we don't have those costings yet. We don't know yet, but it's listed there as an aspiration, as a goal for us to strive for.
Aspirational, yeah. 4.2.2 talks about converting the fleet to electric vehicles. And it mentions it in 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24. I think it might be 24, 20. Has that been costed? Because seems that electric vehicles it'll be much more expensive as you use petrol and diesel. And I know that we've got one in the fleet, and the Mayor's electric vehicle still on a slow boat from China. Is it planned to have one? Is it planned to have one per year or 2 per year? It's just that the surrounding councils don't seem to be going the same way as Indigo Shire. I realise that Indigo Shire is the only council surrounding us that has declared a climate change emergency back in July 2019. So from the ones I've spoken to, none of them have got electric vehicles. They've all got hybrids. I was just wondering, are we sort of going this alone, or is the state government going to change their entire fleet? The federal government just seems an impost on Indigo Shire council ratepayers.
So far we have replaced one fleet vehicle with an electric vehicle, and we've ordered a second one. In both cases, a business case was done in both cases, and they've worked out to be better in the longer term. Yes, they do cost more upfront, and then there's savings at the back end. So over the life cycle of the vehicle, both business cases returned a positive cost-benefit ratio to go electric on those vehicles. The aspiration there is to look at, it's not aspiring to change the entire fleet to electric, but when each vehicle is replaced, because by the time you do replace all your vehicles, those decisions will be made on a case-by-case basis. Now, some vehicles don't suit being electric due to perhaps the range, or due to the types of work-related vehicles they are, and the current vehicles on the market may not suit those vehicles, like tools of trade type vehicles. So at the moment, it's favouring those that are sort of small pool car runabout type cars, and the cars in the fleet that aren't needed to go those long distances, although there's plenty of opportunities to go to Melbourne and back and not be a problem. But they're being reviewed case by case, so we don't have an aspiration at this stage to change the entire fleet to electric over the next 2 to 3 years, but it's really saying each new decision, you'll look at electric to see if that business case stacks up.
Thank you.
At any time, it could be electric, could be diesel, could be petrol. It's just what powers the engine differentiates them, and we'll look at the best vehicle in each case.
Thank you.
Anything else, councillor?
No, that's fine.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to councillor Goldsworthy to sign.
So I'd like to reiterate the congratulations to Mel Collis, the amount of work that she's done in relation to this. No doubt it's kept her up at night, and but she's done a great job, and I thank her for it. And no doubt on behalf of the other councillors. In addressing the particular point about 4.2 and net zero gas emissions by greenhouse gas emissions by 2035, we are leaders in our area. That's it.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. So we're going to go back now to item 10.1, which is the draft budget for 21-22. So the recommendation is that council endorses the attached document for public exhibition. It's the 2021-22 draft budget for the purposes of section 127 of the Local Government Act 1989 and 2021-22 draft strategic resource plan, including the 10-year financial plan, and the draft revenue and rating plan, and the draft operating income and expense by service that we authorise the CEO to give public notice of the preparation of the draft budget in accordance with section 96(2) of the Local Government Act 2020, and places the endorsed documents on period of 24 days, from 19th of May to 11th of June, invites any person wishing to make a submission on the documents to do so prior to 5 p.m. on the 11th of June, and schedules an additional meeting of council on the 15th of June to hear from any person wishing to be heard in support of their submission, and considers a recommendation to adopt the 21-22 budget at the June Ordinary Council meeting on the 29th of June 2021. So again, this is putting this out for draft for consideration. Councillor Goldsworthy, you wish to move?
I would like to move that.
Okay, Councillor Shepherd, you wish to second? All right, Councillor Goldsworthy.
I'm proud to move this budget. This is a capital works program, the likes of which we haven't had before, $15.8 million worth. We're putting $110,000 into direct COVID recovery for our businesses. There'll be other money that will go in that will indirectly have a cash deficit of $4.5 million, but a lot of that is due to the carryover capital works. We're still in a very good financial position. I'm extremely hopeful that the Epic mountain bike track will get well underway. It will involve borrowing up to $1 million, but I believe firmly that this is a project that will reap significant benefits to our local community. And we've got a rate cap of 1.5%. That in itself, good news for the ratepayers per se, insofar as it's not the 7 or so percent that we used to have. Just makes it hard for council to do business. But by and large, this is a job well done by, once again, the staff have been terrific. Bill and Greg have pulled together a budget, and yeah, hopefully it delivers on what we want.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, it's interesting after the year we had last year to be looking at a normal budget again. When it's not normal, I don't feel like we've got back to normal, but we have included $110,000 to into this budget, which I know doesn't sound a lot, but we're going to be using it very effectively to work to assist with the recovery from, of course, we've had bushfires, the pandemic, and the New South Wales Victorian border closures. So yeah, so that hopefully that should go towards some assistance. Also, we've got progressing the Chiltern Community Hub, which is a fantastic project. The Waganya multi-purpose hard courts and lighting project. The Gaganya Hall upgrade is in there today, and the Beechworth Courthouse Kelly Trials experience, and of course, hopefully, the 30-kilometre Beechworth to Yakandanda rail trail will be completed too in this budget. So some exciting things ahead.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak to the budget? Councillor Horn.
I was surprised to be advised that this wasn't a recovery budget, because in the work that I do away from this place, I see every day that we're all in recovery in one state way or another. And as part of the deliberative engagement process, where we have to be in a position to actually explain to our community members our decisions, I'm struggling to explain to the mothers that walk in the street with their pushers and toddlers because there's no pavements. I have no words for the people with issues who are feeling more isolated. They're too scared to go out of their home in case they trip on the paths and things like that are missing. The families that ask me if they can have a shade over their hand as they go into the swimming pool. You know, we can't find money for that, and yet we've to go into debt to finance rail trails and bike trails and things like that, that a very small percentage of our population will actually have it completed of. So, yeah, I struggle with that. I'm not confident that I can explain that situation.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to the budget? Councillor Gaffney.
I think it was interesting that the mover, Councillor Goldsworthy, and the seconder, Councillor Shepherd, both mentioned cycleways. One was the Epping mountain bike track and the other one was the Beechworth to Yakananda rail trail. In the budget, it for some reason lumps footpaths and cycleways together, which I've raised before, but it is what it is. The interesting figures are that for footpaths, the Indigo Shire Council for the 21-22 budget put in the amount of $129,000, 129. The cycleways, the Indigo Shire Council is spending in the 21-22 budget $3.615 million. If that's fair and equitable, I don't know what is. It's just a massive amount of money on cycleways, and what pays the penalty? Footpaths. Also lumped in that section of the budget is a road safety innovation grant of $914,000. Now, it's only during recent months that a federal grant money was used to prop up the shortfall in the Beechworth to Yakananda rail trail of $300,000, and then the ratepayers paid out another $750,000. I'm not against cycleways, but it's just not fair and it's not equitable. And I'm very concerned that that money, when there's footpaths and roads that should be used, why that money hasn't been allocated. We haven't had the grant for several months. We've certainly known about it, and yet it's just left in limbo. In the budget also, in the service area, it talks about emergency management. The net cost to council is $23,583. There's certainly no mention of evacuation centres or neighbourhood safer places. But then when you look at the environment and sustainability budget, the net cost to council is $303,513. I'll repeat that.
Sorry.
$303,513. It includes the Indigo Shire Climate Change Policy, the Indigo Shire Climate Change Adaptation Plan, the Indigo Shire Council Climate Emergency Strategic Action Plan. Regarding climate change, the federal government has put in $500 million. The state government has put in hundreds of thousands of dollars in this week's budget. That the ratepayers of Indigo Shire, not only do they pay for it with their taxes, with their income tax, with their sales tax, but now they're also paying for it with their rates.
30 seconds, councillor.
Also, with the budget, I just wonder why the Beechworth Visitor Information Centre, its net expenses has increased from $273,000 to $379,000, which is an increase of $106,000. The Chiltern Visitor Information Centre remains the same at $23,000. The income at Rutherglen has gone from $55,500 to $90,500. Yet the net cost to council, net expenses is down only $23,000.
Councillor, your time is actually up.
I did have more queries regarding this budget, Madam Mayor, but if time's up, time's up.
Your comments, if you have questions.
Well, I'm just wondering why that figure is that the net expenses at the Beechworth Visitor Information Centre have gone from $273,000 to $379,000.
Okay, I'll ask. I'll put that question to.
Try Mark to see if he's got it.
I might. I'll hand it to. Sorry, just trying to work out where to answer for you. Director Mark Florence, are you available?
No, part of the explanation of Rutherglen is that the VIC in the current year is not a full 12 months, but next year's budget is a full 12 months. So the revenue numbers rather than a full year's revenue versus a 8 or 9 month revenue, but I'm not aware just offhand.
I'm just picking up. There we have.
The Beechworth figure, so that'll be reasonable.
The question was just to repeat for Director Florence.
Why has the Beechworth visitor information net expenses to the ratepayers has increased from 273,000 to 379,000, which is a difference of over $106,000.
Okay, thanks. Director Florence, have you got an answer for that, or do you want to take it on notice?
I'll need to take that on notice, Madam Mayor. I don't have the numbers in front of me or the breakdown of what brings that together.
Okay, so given that it's a draft, we'll get that information back in time for Councillor Gaffney, or for all the councillors, while it's out for draft, before it has to come back for adoption. Okay, thank you.
Just
one more question? Oh, yes. Any more questions? Yeah.
The Chiltern has remained the same at 23,600.
Oh, are you asking?
I'm just wondering why one
has changed and
the other one hasn't. At Rutherglen, the income's increased from 55,500 to 90,500, which is an increase of 35,000, yet the net cost to council has gone from 167 to 143. So net expenses are down only 23,000.
So you want these
compared to the 35?
Okay. They're on notice. Got that, Director Florence? Yes. All right. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the budget? Councillor Price. Are you okay, Councillor Price?
Yes, I'm going to cough my way through.
Having a problem there.
I think it would be a stretch to say that this isn't a recovery budget. I think it's very clearly reflected in there with the works that we're going to be conducting. In the same way, it has to be a business as usual budget. We're a small rural shire that can only do so much each year, and we have to reflect that. And that's why we have rolling programs of works that that we're able to show priorities for and put into the capital works and into the budget. If councillors wanted a particular focus to footpaths because they thought that was in some way about recovery, well, we could have heard that in the budget, and maybe we'll hear that in some of the feedback that we'll get from the community. But I really think it is a budget that is about recovery. It's a completely different budget than before, where we were catering for COVID. And we're still managing to put $110,000 into that recovery. I think that's all the comments I'll make at this point.
Okay. Right. Who else wish to speak to the budget?
No, I'm listening. Take
all right. Perfect. Right, so I'm going to come back to Councillor Gold for summing up.
So total income for this budget is $13.6 million. The likes of which we haven't had in the past. There is significant expenditure in there on a number of strategies, whether it's NART strategy, the Caravan Master Plan, even things like the Shire-wide resealing program that's over $500,000. What we will see is with the recovery from those economic downturns that we've had, when it comes online for the Epic Mountain Bike Track and the rail trail, this year like we've never had before. When we get the Kelly project up and going in the historic precinct, same deal. We're on the cusp, I believe, a boom locally, and it'll be a recovery proud to be part of. So for that reason, I commend this budget.
All right, so I'm going to put the motion that this budget be put out in draft form for input to come back for recommendation by the 29th of June. All those in favour? 5 and against. So in favour we have Councillor Price, Councillor Goldsworthy, Councillor Shepherd, Councillor O'Connor, and in favour, Councillor Croucher. Yeah. You're still in favour? Yes. And against we have Councillor Gaffney and Councillor Horn. So you've got that recorded. Thank you. Right, thanks, councillors. 10.2 is the April finance report. So the recommendation is that council accepts the year-to-date April finance report and the progress against council's forecast. Do I have someone to do that? Councillor Croucher. Do I have a seconder? Goldsworthy. Councillor Crutcher.
Well, look, I'm not a real financier, but by reading through the document, I find that the financial position of the council remains pretty strong overall, and the financial results remain in sync with their forecast expectations. And that's what I can see while reading the document through, so I'm quite in favour.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Goldsworthy.
I agree with Councillor Croucher.
Good. Anyone else wish to speak to the April finance report? Okay, well, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 10.3 is the draft procurement policy. The recommendation is that council endorses the attached draft policy 2021 for the purpose of public exhibition and public comment, according to the schedule and submission arrangements set out for the 2021-22 draft budget at item 10.1. That the policy be presented at the council meeting on the 29th of June for adoption. So yet another document for people to review and put in their comments. Moved by Councillor Goldsworthy, seconded by Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Goldsworthy.
It's very similar to previous procurement documents. One thing I would like to note is that it now recognises and responds to Council's declaration of a climate emergency. We're still looking for value for money for ratepayers, and we want open and fair competition among numerous other things. That's all spelled out in its policy.
Yep. Councillor Shepherd.
I think the thing that's interesting is the new weighting for environmental sustainability of 10%, which goes along also now with the 10% community benefit. So the other 80% is the price, suitability and warranty. So that new 10% weighting has been added, which is worth commenting on. Also, the other thing that I think is worth commenting on is procurement. There's an opportunity here for us to really, as we have been talking about procurement, trying to be sustainable, trying to use renewable, recyclable, and I think this document itself is able to assist us with that. And this one's only for 6 months because with the new Local Government Act, we need to look at it again in 6 months' time. So I'm saying to the community really to have a good look at this, and you've got how many days have they got?
They've got
for this one, but they've got 6 months to think about the next one.
Yes.
Yeah, 6 months to think about. Yeah, but I think we're doing it. The other thing I want to ask is how do we check that our procurement does live up to our policy? I think
in terms. Oh, do you want to ask CEO? Do you want to answer that? How do we make sure
an opportunity for us to
organisation matches the policy?
Yeah.
Put to it.
There are internal audits done to some degree in regards to basic governance stuff. I'm not sure we've done a review to see that it does. I mean, it's a direction to staff, but I'm not aware that we've gone back in every case to see that it's applied. But I'm, I know seeing the tenders that come through, I know that those criteria and weightings are given to them as they've been suggested.
That's right, the ones we see. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, but just out of interest, it's great to have it in the policy, but it's also nice to see where that weighting has worked.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, councillors. Anyone else wish to speak to procurement policy? Councillor Gaffney.
It's just an issue raised by Councillor Goldsworthy when he moved this motion, that all of council's procurement activity must be aligned to council's declaration of a climate emergency. Just wondering whether that means that we pay any extra on any projects to fit this criteria. See, it's the number one criteria mentioned by Councillor Goldsworthy.
Who are you directing your question to, Councillor?
Well, the mover.
Oh, okay.
If he knows.
Goldsworthy, do you want to?
CEO, it doesn't bother me.
Well, as I read it.
Will it be extra cost?
As I read out from the objectives, it's to recognise and respond to council's declaration of climate emergency. Those were the words that I used, and the the additional consideration as a result of that 10% consideration in weighing up any tenders is the environmental sustainability. So that's the effect of it at this stage.
So is that 10% extra for everything we procure? Is that what you just said? And just what's in the policy says all of council's procurement activity is. So it's Goods
10%.
and services. It's all activity up 10%.
So councillor, just to be clear, the weighting isn't added on 10%. It's saying that when you consider it, 10% of your consideration is about the environmental sustainability. It's not additional cost.
You sure about that?
I'm pretty sure about that,
Pretty
councillor.
sure.
I'll check in with the CEO.
CEO?
Well, the weighting doesn't determine price. So the weighting is about how much each purchasing decision gives consideration to climate change and things like that. So it sends signals to suppliers and so on to encourages them to share with us, what steps they're taking for the environment and things like that. So preference, you score more points for that item if you're ahead of somebody else, in that particular item. It doesn't necessarily translate that the price will go up in that particular item.
But you wouldn't rule that out.
Or being cross-examined, I don't know, would I rule it out? It's in some cases it may, in other cases it may be cheaper, and it could be that those organisations that do focus on the big picture are probably more, possibly more tuned, in a whole range of business sense, and so I couldn't rule it in or out at any particular time. But
Okay, and was there a second part to your question, councillor? It was about the 10% weighting. Sorry, I just forgot what there's some other bit to
Is
it.
that on goods and services?
Procurement does procurement apply to goods?
It can be
goods, services, capital,
Everything, okay.
contractors,
yeah.
extra 10%. So
No, sorry.
waiting.
Okay. Nice try, councillor. Any other comments on the procurement policy, or questions or comments? Well, I'm going to go back to councillor Goldsworthy.
So if you read the policy, it is pretty straightforward, and the weighting is 10% on environmental sustainability. And I'd like to think that in about 4 years, we'll have EVs that cost less than the current petrol equivalent, and environmental sustainability in the weighting will certainly be a benefit in determining our support for that as well. So I think we'll see more and more where that 10% comes into play, and it'll be for the benefit of the entire community.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 10.4 is planning application PP 160135 Main Road, Beechworth. The recommendation is that council approves and endorses the attached development plan for PP 160135 Main Road, Beechworth, pursuant to clause 43.54 of the Indigo Planning Scheme, subject to the following amendments and notes being included on the plan. I won't read them all out. There's single amendments and there's 5 notes plus an additional note, so there's actually 6 notes to this. And so I'm going to, as a recommendation, yes, councillor.
I'd just like to put up an alternative motion.
Certainly.
A new
A
motion.
motion that is what?
No, it's still only a recommendation, hasn't been moved by anyone yet.
You can
So,
move.
A recommendation.
And you'd like to move a motion?
I'd like to move a motion.
Please do, councillor, go ahead.
The council determines the proposed development plan for Payne Road, Beechworth is not to the satisfaction of the responsible authority on the following basis: that the proposal is premature and is inconsistent with the clause of the state and local planning policy framework pertaining to contaminated and potentially contaminated land. The council determines that the associated planning permit application for the subdivision of land in 10 lots of Payne Road be refused, and issue a notice of decision to refuse a permit application on the following grounds. Pursuant to clause 43.04, a planning permit must not be granted to use or subdivide land before a development plan has been prepared and endorsed to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. The proposal to subdivide land is premature and inconsistent with clause 13.04-1S of the state and local planning policy framework pertaining to contaminated and potentially contaminated land.
Hey, so you're putting this motion. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, I've looked at this application. We've had 23, I think it is, submissions against.
Sorry, I'm just saying, spend money, yes? Okay, so just, there's just some, I think there might be something you need to correct, that's all. Yes. Okay, Councillor Shepherd, going back to your original.
Yes.
What you actually read out was only the first dot point. So that's all the councillors can vote on. So under number 1, the proposal is premature and inconsistent with.
Yes, clause 13.04-1S of the state and local
And
planning.
apparently, if you want to put that motion for consideration, you need to include the other dot points. So the requirements of section 173.
All the bulk.
Yep.
All, the whole thing.
Okay.
Otherwise, councillors will only.
Of the state and local planning policy framework pertaining to contaminated and potentially contaminated land, the requirements of section 173 agreement AF 777571D and ministerial direction number 1 - potentially contaminated land.
Thank you.
And the rest.
And the planning.
And then
the pursuant to clause 43.04.
That council determines that the associated
I've already read that.
you've already read that bit.
planning permit.
Yes. And then so under that bit that you did read, number 1.
Pursuant to clause 43.04, a planning permit must not be granted to use or subdivide land before a development plan has been prepared and brought to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. Number 2, the proposal to subdivide land is premature and inconsistent with clause 13.04-1S of the state and local planning policy framework pertaining to contaminated and potentially contaminated land. The requirements of section 173 agreement AF 777571D, ministerial direction number 1 - potentially contaminated land.
Thank you. So that's the motion that Councillor Shepherd has put. Do you still wish to second that motion, Councillor Gaffney? Thank you. Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak to?
Yes, there are 23 submissions against this development plan, and development plans. This is the area that we have as councillors an opportunity to have a say, really. And I think the contaminated land section of this particular application needs to be handled now, rather than handed potentially down through into a planning permit stage. So I know we have before in this council asked that development plans that the particular applicant had to clean up the contaminated land beforehand, and I think we should be consistent with that.
Thank you. And Councillor Gaffney?
I really had a long, hard look at this, and in good conscience, I couldn't vote for a development plan on soil that council is aware may be contaminated.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion as put by Councillor Shepherd? Councillor Goldsworthy.
It was during the 1970s that racing had to stop that site, and it's from what I understand, the lead cause of the contamination. Talking primarily about some oil that was placed on the track to keep the dust down. There's also a number of collisions that would have probably linked to fuel being spilt in the area as well. From what I understand, they had to stop because of the contamination into the water table. So it lends credence to the fact that there is significant contamination there. I think it's incumbent on us to ensure that there is no contamination that's going to affect anybody into the future prior to approving any development plan or planning permit.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Do you wish to sum up?
No.
All right, so I'm going to put the motion as put by Councillor Shepherd. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. 2.5. Thank you. Councillor Shepherd's declared a conflict of interest.
Which I've declared earlier.
Yes, you have. Thanks, councillor. I'll wait for councillor Shepherd. All right, so the recommendation is that council under secondary consent endorses the amended plans for planning permit PP 190241 to facilitate the relocation of the battery associated with the use and development of a solar energy facility. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Croucher, do I have a seconder? Sorry, Councillor Goldsworthy? Great, go ahead, Councillor Croucher.
Well, I just had a look at this. This was something new for me to be able to see a battery being lifted. And while the existing permit remains valid, it is such that the application seeks only the approval for the location to be actually amended. The amended location of the battery has been considered against state and local planning authorities and policies, and therefore fits the location situation perfectly for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Goldsworthy.
It's a very small shipping container that will be used to store the batteries. It's consistent with what we're trying to achieve in relation to in our area. Fully supportive of it.
Right, any other councillor wish to speak to this? Councillor Gaffney.
Only 4.4% of people who have solar panels have also battery backup, and I think it's the way to go, seeing that there's a bit of a log jam at midday with people trying to feed back into the grid, and then in the middle of the day there's nothing connected to the grid. So 4.4 is a very low percentage, seeing that there's billions of Australians who've got solar panels. So I think batteries would probably be the way to go.
Yep.
Even though they sometimes run out of zip, but it's a better alternative than trying to feed it back into the grid.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Price.
I'll keep my comments brief so that I don't try not to cough. I fully support this application and agree with everything else that the other councillors have said. The only question I have is, why did it come to council in the first place? Why couldn't this be a decision made under delegation?
Given it was not a very large institution. Yes, so I'm going to hand that over to you, Director Pinkerton, Director of Planning. Perhaps you could explain why something that indeed was not a big installation had to come to council for consideration.
So thank you for the question. I think it was last year, council changed the planning delegation so that energy facilities needed to go to council for a decision on a planning permit. This one's a little bit different because it's a secondary consent. So that left things a little unclear as to whether it needed to go or not. So after consultation with councillors, I decided to chamber as a matter of community interest for councillors or council to determine.
Okay, so just to be clear, does that mean not in the future, not every one of these would have to come for a council decision?
As it stands, energy facilities need, for planning permits for energy facilities need to come to council for a decision.
Okay, thank you. So it might be something for us to look at. Okay, any other, anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'm going to hand back to Councillor Croucher to sum up.
No, I don't think there's anything else I needed to add with what I added before.
Thank you. All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried, and we can get Councillor Shepherd back in the room. All right, so item 10.6 is planning permit application PP 200295 315 All Saints Road, Waggunya. The recommendation is that council approves this planning permit application for the development of land at 315 All Saints Road, Waggunya for the buildings and works associated with the winery and 2 restaurants, and issues a planning permit subject to the conditions included at attachment 2. Do I have someone to move it? Councillor Goldsworthy. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Croucher. Councillor Goldsworthy.
All Saints are a proven leader in their field, particularly in the Rutherglen area. This is only going to enhance their offerings, so more power to them.
Okay. Councillor Croucher.
Very similar wording. The application to me seems to be a further enhancement of the winery itself that is already well ensconced in the winery field. The proposed works involve alterations and additions to structures already in place. They do not alter the use of the land, and therefore a development only permit is all that is required.
Right. Anyone else wish to speak to this one?
Just a question.
Councillor Gaffney.
How many trees have to be removed for this?
Or does anyone have the answer to that? Mr. Pinkerton, we don't have our planning manager at the table, so she.
How old are they?
Director Pinkerton, do you have any knowledge? trees and their age?
No, I don't have that specific knowledge, so we could take that on notice. What I can tell you is that that's been assessed as part of the planning permit. That's something that's always looked at, and so it wasn't a problem to the permit. And thinking back to the site visit, I think there were 2 trees near the existing restaurant that needed to come out, but they weren't native and weren't a problem to the planning permit. So actually thinking back on the site visit, I'm fairly comfortable with that answer.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor
Shepherd, just wanted to add that it's going to double the patrons to the restaurant, which is also an exciting addition, I think. I think it'd be great to have a larger restaurant there. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to put the motion then. All those in favour? Great, and wishing them every success because it looks like an absolutely fantastic addition. Again, another good news story for Rutherglen tonight, so great. 11.1, Rutherglen Place Plan Steering Committee. So the recommendation is that Council notes the proposed process and actions associated with the Rutherglen Place Plan and appoints 2 councillors to the Rutherglen Place Plan Steering Committee. So do I have someone to move that and to recommend the 2 councillors? Councillor Vaughan.
Yes, this is a very exciting advancement in the development of Rutherglen and a wonderful opportunity for the whole community to be involved in it in some way or other. And we've had wonderful experience with other placemaking projects that we've conducted around the Shire. And yeah, I think it's all systems go.
Do you want to recommend the 2 councillors that should be on the steering committee?
Yes, I'm encouraged to say that I'm part of that, and I believe you also, Madam Mayor, are going to be joining us on that group.
Very much hope so. I'll put the recommender. Oh, sorry, did you?
I'll second it.
You're seconded. Did I not?
You're
second.
No, I'm happy.
Sorry.
That's why I was doing that just quietly.
Sorry. Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. All right. And Councillor Horn, do you want to say any more than what you actually just said then about the recommendation?
No, I think it speaks for itself. And as I say, it's just an opportunity for people to really, really be involved in it. And I hope they're forthcoming.
So, Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to speak as a seconder?
Just that the membership of the committee is 5 community reps, which we'll be appointing this evening later on in confidential. An Indigo Rutherglen rep, a Destination Rutherglen rep, Winemakers of Rutherglen rep, Indigo North Health, Arts Rutherglen, and then of course the councillors and a couple of staff. So that is quite a large group of Rutherglen people who will be part of that strategic committee. So I wish them well, and I think it's going to be an exciting project.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Councillor Cratchit.
Oh, look, Councillor Shepherd virtually spoke what I was going to say. I thought this is one of the best representative groups of a town with all those people from all the different areas, and I too wish them well in their project for placemaking in Rutherglen.
Great. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Do you wish to sum up, Councillor Horn?
No, I think everything's been said.
All right, terrific. I'm going to put the motion, and Councillor Price, are you able to come back to this vote?
Yes, sorry. I'm just organising to participate via Zoom in another room so that I can mute my coughing, and you can all just continue.
Oh, I'm totally over. Relax. It doesn't worry me.
Councillor Price, you weren't here for the opportunity. Do you wish to speak to this motion at all?
No, that's fine.
Right, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. And I'm very much looking forward to.
It's loud on the live stream, I've heard.
Councillors, I'm just very much looking forward to working with this committee and with my colleague, Councillor Horn, to see some really, I think, innovative and great works happening for Rutherglen. And Councillor Price, you're leaving us.
I'll just be one room.
You're going to stay with us virtually.
How to use technology, Madam Mayor.
Why not? So the next item is the April Capital Works report. So we might run through that, but then we'll make sure Councillor Price gets an opportunity once she's logged on. So the recommendation is that Council notes the April Capital Works report and the year-to-date achievements in the delivery of the Capital Works program, and notes the additional income of $30,000 committed by the Rutherglen United Cricket Club for the Bartley Park Cricket Nets project and the corresponding increase in the project budget. Do I have someone to move the Capital Works report? Councillor Goldsworthy, do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Goldsworthy.
Well, at this stage, our capital works expenditure, looking back at the finance report, is telling us that 67% are completed. So we've got a bit over a month left. Obviously, there'll be a fair few invoices that will come in that time, so that'll increase the expenditure percentage. Hopefully, we'll get our completion rate up somewhere close to at least 90%. There's been some significant projects that have already been completed, and there's still plenty that are underway, which have been spelled out in the report itself. There's urban road projects in Edson Road, Scary Street, Sarah Street, Rosen Green Lane. There's just a number of projects that we should be quite happy to see completed, and those that are completed that carry over to the new year, we'll get them done then. And well done to the Rutherglen Cricket Club for the $30,000 to go on top of the additional grant, I believe, they've received.
Great. And Councillor Shepherd.
Just the Indigo Creek Road is finished, and that's been a beautiful job, I think. And the Wurrigi tennis courts, I've seen them out playing in it constantly. It's only just been finished, but every time I drive past people playing or some event happening. So I think that's a great addition too. So and as you mentioned, there's lots of things that are nearing completion. So I think that that will improve.
Okay, Councillor Horn.
I'm delighted to report that with that the cricket nets, they're actually going to be covered. So there'll be all season use of that facility. So it's pretty exciting. I believe it's the first one in the district. So
Great.
Very exciting.
Well, good news. Anyone else wish to speak to the Capital Works report? Councillor Price, can you hear us? Okay, and just put your hand up if you want to say anything. All right. Anyone else wish to speak? I'm going to, Councillor Goldsworthy, do you wish to sum up? Just to say, look, it's around $11 million worth of capital projects. There's 7.5 pages of A3 to go through in the attachment. It's significant. The staff are doing a great job. Okay, so I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. And you're just in line with that, I just would again like to thank the staff who've had to deliver this during a year like no other, the first half of the last financial year. And so even though we're not quite there yet, you've done a remarkable job. So thanks to Ian and his team for that. So we've addressed 13.1 at the beginning of the meeting. 13.2 is the Victorian Electoral Commission 2020 election report. So the recommendation is that Council receives the Victorian Electoral Commission 2020 election report. Someone to move it? Councillor Gaffney, seconder. Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Gaffney, wish to speak to it?
Yes, we've got enrolled voters of 13,886. The overall informal voting recorded in 2020 by the Indigo Shire Council general election was 8.14 compared with the state average of 4.76. Not sure what that means, but that's about it.
Okay.
We're all here.
We're all here. Okay. Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to add anything?
I noted that we had more people vote in our shire, but we had more informal votes. More people vote than the Victorian average, a high percentage, but we had a higher informal vote. So I'd be interested in thinking, is it because of the number of people we had on that long list, or interesting? So just next time, make sure your vote is formal.
If you want it to be.
Well, no, we want them to be formal votes. We want people to vote with who've paid attention and they know what they're doing and don't just do donkey votes.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Any further comments from you, councillor?
Just that there were 19 candidates, which is a large number for such a small shire, and the 5 current councillors were or returned those who sought re-election.
And two former councillors joining us again. So interesting that we.
Is that just a comment? And I'd just like to say you topped the poll, Madam Mayor, and you were number 1.
Thank you, councillor. I'm not sure if that's a backhander or not. It is very pleasing to see that we have a very collaborative and cooperative group of councillors at the table. So is there any other comments on this one before I put the vote? Okay, I'm going to put the vote. All those in favour? Carried. 13.3 is the appointment of council representative to the Murray River Advisory Group for the Hume to Yarrawonga Waterway Management. The recommendation is that council appoints myself as the council representative to the Murray River Advisory Group for the Hume to Yarrawonga Waterway Management, and councillor Bernard Gaffney as proxy. Do I have someone to move that?
I'll move that.
Thanks, councillor Croucher. Seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Croucher.
This is very interesting because being on council nearly 12 years ago, I was actually on this committee when I first started to go from it. But it's really good to see that we need representation on this advisory committee, and they've invited us to provide some representation, and who better can we have than our mayor and our proxy, Bernard Gaffney.
Thank you, councillor Croucher. Councillor Shepherd.
No, I'm right.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion?
I've just got a question for the CEO. I know it's been raised before. Councillor Croucher was the community rep on the Lake Hume Goulburn Murray Water Advisory Committee, and I'm just wondering, that was a very active committee, whether it's still existing. If it's not, why not? And would you be able to do that, CEO?
Can I take that on notice? Yeah.
Yes, could I just endorse that, because our shire does have 7 kilometres of frontage from Hume Weir, and a lot to do with it. It was a very vibrant committee, and I was on it as a councillor and as a community rep as well.
I was aware of it, and it had a plan to put in place as well. I think we might coincide with the committee plan.
Yeah.
I'll follow up on it.
Okay, great.
And as Councillor Croucher's on, I'd be happy to be his proxy.
Great. Thank you for that. We'll wait and see if it's still going, and we do. All right. Well, I'll put the motion regarding the Murray River Advisory Group for the Yarrawonga Waterway Management. All those in favour? Thanks, councillors. 13.4 is the informal meeting of councillor records. The recommendation is that council accepts the attached informal meeting of councillor records, or meetings of councillor records. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Gaffney. Seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Gaffney.
It's just a procedural motion, Madam Mayor.
You, Councillor Shepherd. Oh, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 13.5 is the advisory committee minutes. Recommendation is that council receives the attached unconfirmed advisory committee minutes. Do I have someone to move that?
I'll move those.
Councillor Croucher, seconder. Councillor Horn. Councillor Croucher.
It was virtually ditto to what you said before. I'm on one of those committees, and it's good to see the minutes come to all councillors to read.
Thank you. Councillor Horn, do you want to add anything? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. We have no notices of motion tonight. Item 15.1 is my diary for April 2021. And that's for information. Yes, Councillor Gaffney, you have a question for me.
I just noticed something, Madam Mayor.
Did you?
That on the 29th of April, you met with Minister Thomas, Minister for Rural and Regional Victoria, at 2:30 a.m.
Did I?
And
Yes, you were
the following morning, you went to the regional sitting. Welcome. Excuse me, Councillor. The regional sitting at 5:30 a.m. Couldn't you sleep?
I work hard, Councillor, 24 hours a day. There's no rest for the mayor. So I'm going to assume that is slightly a typo. But I will say that we were very fortunate to have the Minister for Rural and Regional Development here in the chamber meeting with the CEO and myself. They were all here for the Legislative Assembly in Bright, and that was what the reception drinks were about. And they probably did go till 5:30 in the morning, but I wasn't there for that. So good pickup, councillor. Decisions register is item 16.1. That's for information. Any general business tonight, councillors? You can see no hands going up around the table. Okay, so we do have an item to consider in confidential, and that is that we actually nominate, or we endorse, sorry, the Rutherglen Place Plan Steering Committee community representatives. So we talked before about the fact that we're putting this together. We're recommending some community representatives onto that committee. We will do that in confidential, and we will then notify those people, the successful applicants. So at this stage, I do need a motion that council closes the meeting to consider item 19.1 pursuant to section 3 and 66 of the Local Government Act 2020. And the reason that we are going to confidential is that there's personal information relating to people not yet appointed to position on a council committee, which is unreasonable to disclose at this point, because it does contain personal biographical information on all the candidates, which have been provided in confidence. So that's the reason we're going into confidential. Do I have a motion to do that, please? Thank you, councillor Horn. Seconded. Seconder, councillor Shepherd. All those in favour? All right, so we're going to go into confidential and wait for the video and it's not mute.
You didn't cough once.
the Rutherglen Place Plan Steering Committee. And I'm sorry, I'm just.
I think you should start that again.
Are we on mute?
No, we're not now, but we were.
Okay, I'd just like to, I'm sorry, I missed that. We would like to congratulate, there are 5 people, community representatives who've been appointed to the Rutherglen Place Plan, and they will be notified. So just in advance, we'd like to congratulate them. And we're very much looking forward to the Rutherglen Place Plan Steering Committee getting together and getting this fantastic project underway. So are there any other items? Just go back. We've moved out of confidential. And I think that that is the end of the meeting. I would like to thank everyone for their participation and good evening to anyone who may be watching. Thanks, Jane.
Go ahead,